The night was colder than anything the human had ever felt. The alien world was covered with snow and sharp winds that cut like knives. Every step he took sank deep into the frozen ground. His breath turned white in the air, and the silence around him felt heavy like a weight on his chest. He had been traveling for hours, searching for a place to rest. His ship had broken down far from the main colony, and now he was alone with nothing but the icy darkness. When he finally saw the shape of an old abandoned station standing on the hill, he felt a small spark of hope. Maybe this place could keep him alive for one more night. The metal doors creaked when he pushed them open. Inside was dark and cold. Broken lights flickered weakly, and the sound of the wind howling through the cracks made it feel haunted. He stepped inside and closed the door. Leaning against it with a long sigh, he was safe from the storm. At least for now, but then he froze. He was not alone. In the far corner of the room sat a figure, small and fragile. Her body wrapped in thin cloth that did nothing to fight the cold. Her skin glowed faintly under the broken light, and her silver eyes reflected fear as they turned to him. She was an alien girl, weak and trembling, her lips moving as if whispering words too soft to hear. The human stood still, his hand near the knife on his belt. He did not know if she was danger or victim. His heart beat faster. The silence between them stretched like a string ready to snap. "Finally," he said in a low voice. "I don't want trouble." His words echoed in the empty room. The girl lowered her head, her voice barely a breath. "Please, let me stay near you." The words shocked him. She was not attacking, she was begging. Her voice cracked with cold and fear. He could hear the desperation in every syllable, but when he looked into her eyes, he saw something else. A shadow, a secret she was not saying. He lit a small fire with the last of his supplies. The flames danced weakly, giving a little warmth. The girl moved closer but kept her eyes down. She whispered again, "Let me sleep beside you, please." Her hands were shaking as if she feared he would push her away. The human studied her carefully. Her silver eyes lifted for a moment, and he felt a chill run down his spine. It was not the cold that made him shiver. It was what he saw in those eyes. They were not only filled with fear, they were holding something back, something she could not speak, something dangerous he wanted to refuse. He wanted to keep distance, but the storm outside roared louder, and the fire inside was too small to share apart. Finally, he nodded. "Stay close, but no tricks," he warned. The alien girl gave a weak nod. She pulled herself near the fire, sitting only a breath away from him. Her eyes never left the flames, but her shoulders trembled with every gust of wind that broke through the broken walls. The human tried to close his eyes, but he could not rest. Every time he looked at her, he saw those eyes again, silver and bright but full of something unspoken. It was as if her eyes wanted to scream a truth her lips would never allow. He felt caught between pity and suspicion, between wanting to protect and wanting to push away. Hours passed slowly. The storm outside screamed like a beast. Inside, the fire flickered low. The human's eyelids grew heavy, but just when he began to drift, he heard her whisper again, softer than the wind, "Don't leave me alone." He opened his eyes and found her staring at him, those silver eyes wide and wet, reflecting the firelight, and for a moment he thought he saw pain deep inside them, pain mixed with fear and maybe something darker. The human did not answer, but he stayed awake, watching her as much as he watched the fire. The night stretched long, and in the silence he knew one thing for certain. This alien girl carried a truth she would not say, and whatever it was, it had already begun to change his fate. The fire burned low, its light trembling across the broken walls. The human sat with his back against the cold metal, his eyes heavy but alert. He could feel the presence of the alien girl beside him, small and fragile, yet carrying something hidden in her silence. She had not spoken again for a long while. Only the sound of her shallow breathing reached him. Mixed with the howling storm outside, the human thought maybe she had fallen asleep. But then he heard her whisper, soft as falling snow, "Please, don't move away." His eyes opened slowly. He turned to her. She was closer now, her thin cloth almost brushing against his arm, her silver eyes looking at him with quiet fear. He frowned. "Why do you want to stay so close?" he asked, his voice low. "You don't even know me." Her lips trembled before answering. "Because when you are near, the shadows stay away." Her words were strange yet filled with truth. She hugged herself tightly as if holding in the shivers of her body. The human studied her again, every movement, every look. There was something unnatural about the way she avoided speaking the full truth. Her eyes told a different story than her lips. When she begged to be beside him, he felt it was not only for warmth, it was for safety. Safety from something unseen. The wind outside struck the station like claws scratching at the walls. The fire hissed and shrank smaller. The girl's face glowed faintly in the dark. Her skin seemed almost made of moonlight, fragile and cold. Her hands shook as she reached toward the fire, but he noticed her eyes. Those silver eyes were not only afraid, they were carrying a weight she could not put into words. He shifted uncomfortably. "Who are you running from?" he asked. His voice firm. "Because I can see it, you're hiding something." For a moment she did not answer. Her eyes dropped, her lips pressed together, and then she whispered with a broken voice, "If I tell you, you will leave me too." The words cut him in a way he did not expect. There was loneliness in her tone, deep and sharp, as if she had begged before and been abandoned. He wanted to press her for answers, but her trembling made him hold back. Instead, he sighed, "I'm not leaving yet. The storm won't let me." He looked away toward the frozen windows. "So you might as well talk." She leaned closer, so close that he could feel the faint chill of her body. Her voice shook as she spoke. "They come at night, they hunt me if I am alone. They will take me." Her fingers clutched the edge of his sleeve, desperate. "That is why I whispered to you. Let me stay beside you, even if only for tonight." The human's chest tightened. The fear in her words was real, yet her eyes told more. He could see it again, something hidden deep within them. Something that went beyond fear of being hunted. Her silver gaze carried a secret burning quietly in the dark. He moved his arm slightly, letting her grip tighten. "If they are hunting you, why?" he asked slowly. "What do they want from you?" Her lips parted. But then she stopped, her breath caught in her throat. Her eyes shimmered like glass under the weak firelight. She shook her head quickly. "No, I cannot, not yet." Her voice was small, almost broken. The human felt frustration stir, but he held it down. There was more here than a simple story of running and hiding. He looked at her trembling form, her whispered request still ringing in his ears. It was not only a plea for warmth. It was a plea for life. The fire died lower, casting more shadow than light. The girl pressed herself against the wall beside him, whispering again, "Promise me you won't leave me tonight." Her voice cracked with desperation. He wanted to say no. He wanted to keep distance. But her eyes caught him again. Those silver eyes filled with something that gripped him harder than the cold. It was not trust, not yet. But it was a cry for help that could not be ignored. He exhaled slowly, his voice steady. "I'll stay, but you must tell me the truth soon." Her face softened for the first time, not with joy, but with relief. A single tear slid down her cheek. She whispered, one last time, "Thank you, human," before lowering her head. The human leaned back against the wall again, his thoughts heavy. He could not shake the feeling that he had stepped into something far greater than a cold night's shelter. The girl's whisper echoed in his mind. Her request seemed simple, yet her eyes kept warning him. There was a truth waiting, a truth she carried like a wound. As the storm raged outside, the human realized he was now bound by her whisper. He had promised to stay, and in that promise he felt the weight of a coming danger, the kind that could not be escaped by morning light. The storm outside still screamed like a living beast, its icy breath pushing against the broken walls. Inside, the fire had almost died, leaving more shadow than warmth. The human rubbed his hands together, his eyes heavy but his mind sharp. He knew he could not sleep, not while the alien girl whispered beside him like a secret waiting to be revealed. She sat curled near the weak fire, her silver eyes half closed, her face pale in the flickering light. The human watched her quietly. Every now and then she shivered, clutching the thin cloth around her shoulders. It was clear she had no real protection against the cold. Yet the way she held herself made him think her pain came from more than just freezing air. He leaned forward, his voice low. "You're hiding something from me." His words were steady. "I see it in your eyes." The girl tensed. Her fingers tightened on the edge of her cloth. Her breath caught, and for a moment she looked like she wanted to run, but where could she go? Outside was death, inside was only him. Finally she whispered, "You shouldn't look too close," her voice trembling like the fire's last sparks. The human frowned. Her words only deepened the mystery. He shifted closer, and that was when he noticed something he had missed before. Her arms were marked, faint lines running across her skin, not from the cold but from something else. He reached out without thinking, catching her wrist gently. She flinched, her body stiffening, but he held her just long enough to see the truth. Thin scars, almost like burns, wrapped around her skin in perfect circles. as if chains had once held her tightly. His voice was quiet but sharp. "Who did this to you?" Her eyes lifted. Wide and wet, she shook her head quickly, trying to pull her arm back. "No, don't ask," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "If I speak of them, they will find me." The human let go, but his jaw tightened. Whoever had left those scars had done more than hurt her body. They had carved fear into her soul, and now she carried that fear like a shadow that followed every step. For a long moment, silence filled the room, broken only by the storm outside. Then she moved closer, almost pressing against him. Her whisper carried like a broken note. "I was taken." Her eyes shimmered with pain, kept in darkness, chained like an animal. Her breath shook as she spoke. "But I escaped, and they are hunting me still." The human felt his chest tighten. The scars, the whispers, the desperate request to sleep beside him. All of it made sense, but still, something was missing. Her words were broken, half-truths. She was not telling him everything, and he could see it burning in her eyes. "You escaped," he said slowly. "But why do they want you back? What makes you so important?" Her lips parted. But again she froze, her voice fell silent. Her eyes darted to the shadows around them as if something unseen was listening. She shook her head fiercely. "I cannot, not now." Frustration pressed inside him, but he saw the fear trembling through her every bone, and he knew forcing her would break her completely. So he leaned back against the wall, exhaling a long breath. "Fine, keep your secret. But scars like those don't lie." Her eyes lowered, a tear slipping down her cheek. She whispered softly, almost too soft to hear. "Sometimes I wish I had not escaped." The word struck him harder than the storm's icy claws. He turned sharply, staring at her, but she kept her eyes hidden, her shoulders hunched as if weighed down by invisible chains. The human's thoughts twisted with questions. Who were they? Why did they want her? And what truth hid behind those silver eyes? Every answer seemed close, yet always slipping through his fingers. The fire dimmed to the last glowing coal. Shadows swallowed the corners of the station. The girl trembled and leaned into him without asking this time. Her whisper brushed against his ear. "Stay awake with me." "Please," he looked at her. The scars on her arms, the tears on her cheeks, the secrets in her eyes. And he knew sleep would not come anyway. His instincts told him the night was not safe. Not for her, not for him, so he nodded, his voice steady. "I'll stay." She lifted her eyes slowly. Silver glowing faint in the darkness. For the first time he saw more than fear. He saw pain in something else, something unspoken, as if her eyes begged him to see the truth she could not speak. The human did not understand it yet, but in that moment he felt it deep inside. Her scars were not only marks of suffering, they were keys to a darker secret, one that tied her to the hunters outside, and one that would soon decide his fate too. The storm outside screamed louder, shaking the broken station. The human placed more wood into the dying fire. The girl closed her eyes but did not sleep. Her whispers silent now, but her scars told a story her lips refused to reveal, and as the night stretched longer, he knew the real danger was not the storm or the cold. It was the truth hiding in her eyes. Waiting to break free, the night dragged on. The storm outside howled like a wounded beast, its icy breath seeping through the broken walls of the old station. The fire was almost gone, leaving only faint light and long shadows crawling across the floor. The human sat with his back against the wall, his hand resting near his knife, his eyes never leaving the alien girl who leaned close beside him. She had not spoken much since her whisper about the scars, but her silence was heavy, as if each moment she swallowed back words that wanted to escape. The human could feel her tension in the air. It was not just fear of the storm. It was fear of something bigger, something that was drawing closer. Suddenly he heard it, faint at first, then stronger. Footsteps outside, crunching through the snow. His heart tightened. He reached for the knife at his side, his ears sharp. The girl froze where she sat, her silver eyes wide and glowing faintly. Her trembling hand gripped his sleeve, her voice barely more than breath. "They are here." The human's pulse quickened. "Who?" he whispered, his eyes scanning the door. Her lips shook as she spoke. "The ones who chained me. The ones who hunt me still." Her grip tightened painfully on his arm. "Don't let them take me." The footsteps grew louder. Moving around the station, shadows stretched across the cracked windows. Voices in a strange alien tongue whispered outside, searching, calling. The human could not understand the words, but the tone was clear. It was a hunt, and she was the prey. The girl pressed herself closer, almost hiding against his chest, her whisper urgent and desperate. "Please, don't leave me alone." Her words echoed the same request she had given before, but this time it carried something more. Not just fear, but finality, as if she knew this was the moment her secret would be revealed. The human's eyes narrowed, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "You need to tell me the truth now." Her silver eyes glistened in the firelight. Her lips parted, but her voice shook. "If I tell you, you will hate me." A tear slid down her cheek, her breath unsteady. "But you already see it, don't you?" "In my eyes." The footsteps stopped near the door. Silence hung for a heartbeat. Then a heavy bang shook the metal frame. The hunters outside were testing the door. The human leaned closer, his voice sharp and low. "Tell me." Her chest rose and fell quickly, her fingers clutching his sleeve as if letting go would mean death. Finally she whispered with broken courage. "They want what I carry, it is inside me," her voice cracked. "I escaped with something they call forbidden. Something not meant for me, but they forced it into me. And now it burns inside like fire." The human's breath caught, his eyes locked on hers. "What did they put inside you?" Her silver gaze shimmered with fear and sorrow. "Power," she whispered, her voice trembling. "A living seed of their war machines. A weapon they grow inside bodies I was not meant to live. Only to be used." She pressed her hand against her chest, her tears falling. "But I survived and I ran. And now they want it back." The human felt his blood run cold. Her scars, her fear, her whispered requests, all of it now made sense. She was not only a victim, she was carrying something dangerous, something alive within her, something that made her valuable to her hunters and deadly to anyone near. Another bang shook the door, stronger this time. Dust fell from the cracked ceiling. The girl buried her face against him, whispering brokenly, "Don't let them take me. If they do, I will be nothing but their weapon again." "I would rather die." The human gritted his teeth. His hand tight on his knife, he looked down at her, her silver eyes wet with tears, but inside them burned something stronger, a desperate plea, a truth that had been locked away until now. He exhaled slowly. "I won't let them take you," his voice low but firm. The girl gasped softly, her eyes widening, her whisper almost a sob. "You mean it?" The human nodded, his eyes fixed on the shaking door. "I don't know what you are carrying or what it means, but I won't hand you over." The footsteps outside grew louder. Voices shouted in anger. The door rattled under the weight of claws and fists. The storm howled with them. The girl whispered again, her voice trembling but filled with fragile hope. "You saw the truth in my eyes, and still you stay." The human kept his eyes on the door, the firelight flickering over his face. "Yes, I stay," he said, "but this truth of yours, it might kill us both." Her tears fell freely now, but her lips curved into the faintest trace of a smile, her whisper soft. "Then let me die beside you." "Not with them." The human tightened his grip on the knife, his breath steady despite the storm of fear inside him. Outside, the hunters prepared to break through. Inside, the alien girl's dark secret had been spoken, and now both of them were bound to it, bound by her whisper, by her eyes, and by the choice he had made. The fire hissed its last breath, plunging the room into half-darkness. The human's heart beat like thunder. The girl's trembling hand clutched his sleeve like life itself. The storm roared. The hunters banged again, and he knew the night had only begun. The old station shook under the weight of pounding fists. The metal door rattled again and again, each strike sending vibrations through the walls. Snow from the roof slipped down with a crash. The human stood ready, his knife gripped tightly, his heart steady but heavy with the knowledge of what was coming. The alien girl clung to his arm, her silver eyes wide with terror. She whispered quickly, almost too fast to follow, "They will break through. They will not stop until they have me. You should leave me. Save yourself." The human shook his head, his voice low and hard. Not a chance. He pulled her closer to the weak fire, though its glow was almost gone. "If they want you, they go through me first." The banging stopped suddenly. Silence fell. It was worse than the noise. The human's breath grew sharp. He stepped toward the door, knife raised. But then a voice came through, deep and cold, speaking words in a language he could not fully understand. But one phrase repeated clear enough. The girl's name. She gasped and covered her mouth, her eyes watering. The voice outside laughed harshly. Claws scraped against the door. Then another voice shouted, closer, more impatient. The hunters were circling, surrounding the station like wolves around a dying fire. The human pulled the girl away from the entrance, pushing her behind him. "Stay low. Don't move until I say," he whispered firmly. She nodded weakly, tears rolling down her cheeks. The first strike came suddenly. The door bent inward with a loud metallic scream. Snow blew in through the cracks. A clawed hand reached through, searching. The human slashed at it with his knife. The creature outside roared, pulling back with anger. The girl let out a small cry, covering her mouth again, her body shaking like a fragile leaf in the wind. The human crouched beside her, his voice sharp but calm. Listen, if they get in, we move fast, stay with me no matter what happens. Do you understand? Her silver eyes locked onto his, glowing in the dim light. I will not leave your side, she whispered, her voice trembling but sure. The banging grew louder, heavier. The door bent more with each strike. Cracks spread along the hinges. The human could see shapes moving in the snow outside. Tall shadows with glowing eyes, their weapons glinting under the broken moonlight. He felt his chest tighten, the odds were against him. Yet when he looked at the girl, scarred, terrified, but clinging to hope, he knew he could not abandon her. Her whispered plea still burned in his mind. Let me stay beside you. And now it was no longer a request. It was a vow he could not break. Suddenly the door burst open, crashing inward. Snow and wind poured inside. 3 tall hunters stepped through, their bodies covered in black armor, their eyes glowing yellow in the dark. Their voices growled in unison, calling her name again. The girl whimpered and pressed against the human's back, hiding herself from their gaze, her whisper desperate. Please, don't let them touch me. The human raised his knife, his voice sharp like steel. If you want her, you'll have to kill me first, the hunters snarled. One stepped forward, towering above him, claws sharp and glistening. The human's heart pounded, but his stance did not falter. Behind him, the girl gripped his sleeve with both hands, her silver eyes staring past him at the creatures who once chained her. The first hunter lunged, the human rolled aside. Slashing with his knife, sparks flew as metal struck armor. The hunter roared, swinging back with force. The human barely ducked, his breath sharp in his throat. The girl cried out, reaching for him, but he shouted back, "Stay down," his voice cutting through the chaos. The second hunter stepped closer, speaking again in that strange language, pointing toward the girl, his tone commanding, but she only shook her head, tears spilling down. "No, I will never go with you again," she whispered through sobs. The third hunter raised a weapon, sharp and glowing with alien light, aiming at her. The human reacted without thought. Throwing a piece of broken metal from the floor, it struck the hunter's arm. The shot went wild, burning a hole into the wall. The room filled with smoke and cold wind. The hunters advanced, but the human stood his ground, his body burning with determination. He had no armor, no great weapon, but he had made a choice, and his choice was stronger than their claws. The girl's voice rose again, trembling but filled with desperate strength. "Please don't give me to them. I would rather die here beside you than return to chains." Her words struck the human's heart like fire. He glanced back at her, her silver eyes shining with fear and trust. Then he faced the hunters again, his voice steady and unshaken. "You heard her? She's not going back," the hunters roared in fury. Their steps shaking the floor, the storm outside screamed with them. Snow whirled through the broken door. The human gripped his knife tighter. His muscles tense, he knew this fight could end his life. But he also knew one thing with certainty. He would not let them take her, not while he still breathed. The station echoed with roars and the clash of metal. The hunters pressed forward with cruel strength, their glowing weapons cutting through the dark. The human fought with nothing but his knife and his will, his breath ragged, his arms aching. Yet he refused to step aside. One hunter slashed at him. Claws ripping through the air, the human ducked low, stabbing his blade into the creature's leg. The roar shook the walls, but before he could pull back, another hunter swung a heavy strike across his chest, throwing him against the wall. Pain burst through his ribs, his vision blurred, yet he forced himself to stand again. The alien girl cried out, her silver eyes wide with terror. She crawled toward him, but he shouted through clenched teeth, "Stay back," his voice sharp. "Don't let them take you." The hunters turned their gaze to her, their voices rising, calling her name again and again, their glowing eyes fixed on her like predators who had cornered their prey. She pressed herself against the wall, trembling, her whispers spilling out. "No, no, please, I won't go back, not again." Her tears fell, her arms wrapped around herself, and then something happened. The firelight caught her silver eyes, and in that moment the human saw it, the truth hidden inside them. Her eyes glowed brighter, not with fear alone, but with a strange light, alive and burning. Her pupils shimmered with energy, as if holding something inside that should not exist. The human froze for a second, breath caught in his throat, the stories she whispered, The scars on her arms, it all came together. She was not just a victim. She was carrying something within her. Something powerful, something dangerous. The hunters stepped closer, their growls deepening. One raised its claw and barked words in their language, but the meaning was clear. Surrender. The girl shook her head violently, clutching the human's sleeve, her voice breaking. They want what is inside me. They put it there. A seed, a living weapon. I was supposed to be nothing but a vessel. But I ran, I survived, her breath came fast, her eyes burning brighter. If they take me back, I will be their weapon again, I will be their destruction. And I cannot bear it. The human's jaw tightened, his chest rising and falling with pain and rage. He turned his eyes on the hunters, his voice sharp and full of fire. Then they won't take you, the hunters roared. Stepping forward, their weapons raised, the human pushed the girl behind him, his knife ready though his body screamed from wounds. He knew he could not win against them with steel alone. But her glowing eyes told him there was more here than he had understood. He turned to her quickly, gripping her shoulders. Listen to me, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos. That thing inside you, the seed, the power, can you control it? Her silver eyes filled with tears, shaking her head. I don't know, I never tried. I was too afraid, I thought if I touched it, it would burn me alive. The hunters closed in, their heavy steps rattling the floor. Snow whirled through the broken door. The human's time was running out. He pressed her shoulders harder, his voice urgent. Then you have to try. Now if you don't, they will take you. They will make you their weapon. Is that what you want? Her breath shook, her hands trembling against his chest. No, she whispered, her voice raw. I want to be free. Then fight, he said firmly, his eyes locking into hers. Not for them, not for me, fight for yourself. Fight to live. Her silver eyes glistened, a storm of fear and hope inside them. The hunters roared louder. One lunged forward. The human raised his knife. But before the strike could land, the girl screamed. It was not a scream of terror, but of release. Her eyes blazed with white light, brighter than fire. Brighter than the storm, her body shook. The marks on her arms glowed like molten chains. Energy burst from her in waves, throwing the hunters backward with a crash, their roars turning into howls of pain. The human shielded his eyes, the station shook. The storm outside seemed to answer with thunder. When the light dimmed, the hunters lay sprawled on the floor, their armor scorched, their glowing eyes dimmed with shock. The girl fell to her knees panting, tears streaming down her cheeks, her hands shaking. I didn't mean to, she whispered, her voice full of fear. I didn't mean to let it out. The human knelt beside her, his hand firm on her shoulder, his voice calm despite the chaos. You didn't lose control, you saved us. You chose what to do with it. She lifted her face to him, her silver eyes shining with exhaustion and sorrow. But it's inside me, it will always be inside me. How can you look at me and not see a monster? He held her gaze, steady and unbroken. Because I don't see a monster. I see someone who was hurt, chained and used, but who still chose to fight. You are more than what they put inside you. Her eyes filled again with tears, but this time they were different, not only of fear but of hope. The truth had been revealed, her secret spoken, her power unleashed, and yet the human had not turned away. Outside the storm raged on. Inside the hunters struggled to rise again. The fight was not over, but in that moment, as her silver eyes locked on his, the girl realized something she never thought possible. For the first time since her escape, someone had seen the truth in her eyes and had not left her. The station shook with the echoes of the blast. Smoke curled through the cracks. The hunters lay scattered on the ground, their armor scorched, their glowing eyes dimmed but not yet gone. The human stood over the alien girl, his knife still in hand, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. She knelt on the cold floor, her silver eyes glowing faintly, her body trembling from the power that had erupted from her. Her voice broke as she whispered, I can't hold it. I can't live like this if they take me again. I will become their weapon, I will destroy everything. The human crouched beside her, his hand steady on her shoulder. Listen to me, he said firmly, his voice calm but strong. You are not their weapon. You are not what they made you. You are what you choose to be. Her tears slid down her face, her breath shaking. But if I lose control again, if I burn everything, will you still stay? The human looked into her glowing eyes, the truth burning inside them, and he nodded without hesitation. Yes, I will stay. Because you are more than the thing inside you. You are someone worth fighting for. The hunters stirred. Growls rumbling from their throats, their leader pushed himself to his feet. His armor cracked, but his voice sharp with rage. He pointed at the girl, speaking her name again, shouting commands. The other two rose slowly, limping, but their glowing eyes still locked on her. The human rose to his feet, stepping between them and the girl once more, his stance unbroken though blood seeped from his wounds. You will not take her, he said, his voice steady. Not while I breathe, the hunters hissed, raising their weapons. Snow swirled into the station through the broken door. The storm outside roared like a drum of war. The girl clutched her chest, her body shaking. Her eyes burning brighter, she whispered. I can feel it again, the power. It wants to break free. It wants to burn them all. The human turned quickly, gripping her shoulders, his eyes sharp. Then don't let it control you. You control it. This is your choice. Not theirs. Her tears fell harder, her lips trembling. I don't know if I am strong enough. He leaned closer, his voice fierce. Then borrow my strength. Look at me. She lifted her silver eyes, and in them he saw the storm of fear and hope colliding. The secret she had hidden all this time now fully revealed. The truth in her eyes was not only power, it was pain, and yet it was also the will to live. The hunters roared and charged. The human turned, knife ready, but before they could reach, the girl screamed again, this time her voice steady, her body glowing with blinding light. But she did not lose herself. She did not collapse. She stood tall, her arms stretched, and the power burst outward like a wave. The hunters were thrown back against the walls, their weapons shattering, their armor cracking apart. Their glowing eyes flickered and dimmed. The station trembled. The storm outside howled in answer. When the light faded, silence filled the room. The hunters lay broken on the ground, unmoving, their breath shallow. Defeated at last, the girl fell to her knees, panting, her body weak, but this time she was not crying. She looked up at the human, her silver eyes glowing softly, not with fear but with fragile hope. I did it, she whispered, her voice shaking. I controlled it, I chose. The human knelt beside her, his hand resting gently against her back, his voice quiet but full of strength. Yes, you chose. And you chose to live, she leaned into him, exhausted, her whisper soft against his chest. And you stayed, you didn't leave when you saw the truth in my eyes. He looked down at her, his jaw tight but his eyes steady. Because I saw more than fear, I saw someone worth saving. And I will not walk away. The storm outside began to calm, the winds dying slowly. Snow still fell, but softer now. The station was quiet except for their breaths. The hunters broken in the shadows. Their threat ended. The girl lifted her face, her silver eyes meeting his once more. Then stay with me, she whispered, her voice tender. Not only for this night, but for whatever comes after. The human exhaled slowly, his chest aching from wounds, his body weary, yet his answer came with no doubt. I will. Her lips trembled into the faintest smile, her tears falling not from fear but from relief. The truth that had haunted her eyes for so long was no longer a burden she carried alone. The fire was gone, the storm was fading, and though the night was not yet over, the human and the alien girl sat together in the ruins of the station, bound by a choice, a promise, and a truth finally spoken. For the first time since her escape, she was not alone, and for the first time since his journey began, he understood that some battles were not fought with weapons, but with the courage to see someone's truth and stay beside them anyway.